Welcome to Diaspora, the show where we share the remarkable stories of immigrants from the Indian subcontinent. I'm your host, Aditya Mehta. Each week, we sit down with individuals who have made the journey over and explore their experiences, their challenges, their triumphs, and we delve into their unique perspectives on adapting to a new culture while staying connected to their roots. Today, we're joined by Vikram Marthandam, originally from Chennai in India. He moved to the US to study, eventually getting a master's degree, a PhD, and then an MBA because he got the buy two get one free offer. So he's a senior manager at Amazon, which is basically a director or a vice president of a smaller company. His team designs fulfillment centers for Amazon Pharmacy, which is a relatively new division of the retail giant. So if you order your medicines from Amazon Pharmacy, Vikram and his team probably had something to do with it. I know Vikram through my time at Amazon. As some of you may know, I used to work for Amazon launching last mile delivery stations. At some point during my Amazon journey, our paths crossed, and I'm glad they did. He's an excellent person to work with, knowledgeable, forthright, and a dad jokes connoisseur like me, and just an all around nice guy. So, with that, Vikram, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adi.
It's my pleasure. Let's dive into my first question, which is what would you describe Chennai as if it were a US city?
I think the rough equivalent that I would say is a place like Los Angeles, just organized chaos
Yeah.
in a place that's welcoming. And even from other parts of South India, they say that Chennai is one of those cities that's welcoming for someone who wants to start a career and grow
Yeah.
in their lives.
Yeah.
So it's organized chaos, but it just works.
One thing I noticed about Tamil Nadu and to an extent even Gujarat, people are very comfortable moving within the state. And if you tell somebody from Coimbatore to go work in Salem or Madurai, in Maharashtra, that's not a thing. If you ask someone from Bombay to go to Nagpur or Pune, why do you think that would be the case?
Are you saying people are more open to moving?
In Tamil Nadu, yeah. Within the state.
I was always under the impression that once you move to Chennai, you wouldn't
don't
want to
move.
move to any other place
Okay.
within Tamil Nadu. And the
Yeah.
same's the case for someone living in Coimbatore or Madurai. They wouldn't want to move to Chennai because the hustle and the bustle, right? It's just a little too busy
Too
for some
busy.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my time driving around Tamil Nadu as part of when I was with my family business. I watched so many Tamil movies and I have no idea what they are about because they were just playing in the bus. How was your time growing up there? Until what age were you living there?
I lived in India until when I was 22 years old. I did my undergraduate degree in India. And then, like most other engineers by fate, decided to move to the US for grad school.
And when you were applying for grad school, this is, I'm guessing, before there's widespread information on the internet about schools.
Yes.
And I had the same experience with my undergrad. How did you go about researching which grad school to go to and where did you get that information from?
I started from working backwards from the program that I wanted to be in. That evolved. Like most other 22-year-olds, the fickle-mindedness keep changing, but it was always to do something with either biomedical engineering or biomechanics, something to do with mechanical engineering where I could break things in the specific situation. The working backwards from broken bones was a very appealing prospect, and doing something about it was also something that was very appealing to me. So where I landed was something close, not quite bones, but metallic materials.
Did you apply to a lot of schools and carpet bomb or very few targeted applications?
About a dozen schools.
Yeah. I applied to 16 for my undergrad because I didn't know any better. I had a consultant, as many people in India call themselves. I didn't know he had, arrangements with those universities, commercial arrangements. So they say, oh, UT Austin's great. And then you're like, okay, I guess you're the expert. And so I applied to a lot of schools. At least my ranking of the schools was correct because I got into the bottom 8 of my list and I ended up going to one of those. Had you been outside India when you moved here? Had you ever left India?
When I was really young.
Okay.
My dad used to work in Iran as a doctor.
Okay.
This was when the revolution was going on.
Yeah.
And the Shah of Iran was still in power.
Wow.
So in fact, I have vivid memories as a child when we were standing on our balcony and I could see the bombers fly over my head. So It's very interesting. I'm not sure this for a lot of people, but
I didn't know that.
But to the point you made, if you said you got into the bottom 8 and UT Austin was one of them, I think you did pretty well for yourself, Adi.
I actually was supposed to go to UCLA.
Okay.
And based on the advice of my consultant, and there was a mix-up in the documentation, and they withdrew the offer of admission.
Really?
And UT was, you know what an I-20 is? It's the
Yes.
form that the university sends you, for more context for our listeners. And if you're not going to accept that college, you have to send that form back, because that's an immigration document. So I'd already sent back my UT Austin I-20.
Oh, wow.
And I had to call up FedEx and get it sent back to me. And I ended up at UT. And when I went, I had no idea about anything. I thought, Texas, it's like the stereotype impression of Texas with cowboys and ranches. I didn't know that Austin is not as Texan as the rest of Texas is. And when I went there, I was just pleasantly surprised, and huge amount of college pride even to this day. And I think it really shaped me as a person. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
So at that time, so you're definitely coming to US for the first time.
Oh, US for the first time, yes.
Yeah. So when you landed, what was your first impression, and what was that like? Where did you go straight from the airport?
To the apartment of some fellow students who were going to host me. But what was unique about my first time coming to the US was the first city that I landed in was Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh,
I went to UNLV for my master's and PhD.
okay.
So it was really unique. Anyone I spoke to in India, the first question that they asked me was, "Are you really going to
Study.
UNLV for grad school?"
Yeah.
And
Or is
honest
this all
answer
just
was,
an
yes, I
excuse?
was, but it was a lot of fun. It was very atypical for a college town.
Yeah.
Very frequently, UNLV is considered a commuter school,
Mm-hmm.
but it's quite the opposite.
Okay, nice. So, what were the things you found weird, or like, why do people do this when you came here? What was the weirdest thing you found people, either habits or how things were organized or anything about that?
Things that are peculiar about
Yes.
this country.
Yes.
I used to drive when I was in India. I used to drive my dad's car. The first thing that hit me really hard was the side of the road that people drive in.
Yeah.
The whole concept of automatic cars was very alien to me, right?
Sure.
Stick shift cars were the thing
Yep.
in India. So when I first started driving, I used my left foot on the brake
Sure.
and the right foot on the gas pedal. It didn't quite work. So
Right.
things like that really blew me away.
Right.
In very simple ways.
Yeah.
Nothing very complicated or convoluted, but
Yeah.
you just have to change your frame of reference and your mental
Sure.
model when you approach things.
Did you ever turn into the wrong side of the road?
No, I did not do that.
Okay.
I might have done that once or twice, but yes.
Yeah. In low risk situations.
low risk situations.
Okay. How were those college years like? Were there a lot of other people from South Asia, or was it mostly locals?
Not as many as at
Sure.
University of Texas system, right?
Yeah.
I think the year I arrived in the US, UNLV had 50 students from India.
Okay.
That was not a lot compared to a
No.
UT Arlington or a UT Austin or any other
I
school in
mean,
California.
I founded
for that matter.
the Longhorn Cricket Club, and the club had 400 Indian people as members.
Wow.
So it was, but then what would happen there is all the Indians would not band together, or all the South Asians, because there's so many that there's enough for you to form your own micro group. Gujarati from Bombay,
Oh,
for
yeah.
example. So there are 30 Gujaratis from Bombay. So it was enough for us to have our own group. And you kind of go into that same mindset, because India is, a lot of parts of India are segregated, not or like as a racial thing, but people live within other people like themselves.
Yes.
It's not a place where there's like, hey, let's all be diverse and all live in together. No, there's a Gujarati neighborhood, and
100%.
yeah.
Yes.
So we kind of just transposed that, and I think to my unintentional credit, I always had friends from beyond just the Indian diaspora, and all shapes and sizes, who taught me how college football works.
Absolutely.
And those things were extremely valuable, which I even carry to this
And
day.
it makes the experience better, right? It's
Yeah.
not about, if I was to live in my echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
Why would I not just do that in India?
Yeah. And it was a great time to be at Texas, because 2006 national champions in football.
Yeah.
I remember paying $400 in those days to get a satellite uplink done for the Rose Bowl, because I was in India for a vacation,
Got it.
and the thing just wouldn't work. And I caught I think the last 3 minutes of the game, which is probably the best part of it. So, money's worth. I was celebrating by myself at, I think, 4 in the morning or something, but
Absolutely.
But it definitely made me a huge fan of the college because of the sheer diversity of people I knew from there. How was the experience getting a job after the... Oh, actually, you did a PhD right after? Or did you have a break?
I took a year between my master's and my PhD just to see what's out there.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a job. I was also exploring other schools to do my PhD in.
Yeah.
So I just needed a break from academics for
Sure.
a year. And then I came back because my advisor made me an offer saying, hey, this is an amazing project from the Department of Energy, developing materials and testing materials, and something that appealed me a lot. And me and my advisor got along really well. And that's one of the key things when you're in a PhD program.
Yeah.
If the rapport between your advisor and you isn't great, things are not going to work out.
Right.
So I was fortunate that things worked out for me, and I just went back to UNLV to get my PhD.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people come to the US for economic reasons to get a great job outside of the program. Was there a pressure on you to start being productive as like earning money quickly, or did you, and if not on you, did you see that with other people from South Asia where there was this kind of pressure?
Slightly long-winded answer. So when I was finishing up my bachelor's in engineering, mechanical engineering in India, this was 2002. The IT revolution had not started in a big way until it started in 2003. I missed that boat by a year.
Right.
For reasons that could be good, bad, or indifferent. And the parallel thing that was going in my mind is I had two uncles that were my role models going up, and back in the early 70s and the early 90s, they came to their US to get their masters and their PhDs, and that was a career pathway that was etched in my mind growing up, and I just wanted to emulate them every step of the way.
Right.
So that was very formative in my wanting to come to the US. That coupled with economic reasons that, hey, when you finish your bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, the number of jobs you could find were few and far between. Moving to IT and becoming a software developer was not an option. One, because of availability of jobs. Second, being I would suck at being a computer programmer. Right? There were those. So it just culminated in a place where, hey, this was the right thing for me to do, and things worked out.
Yeah, that's nice. I talk about the universe conspiring a lot in my daily life, and sometimes that happens, and you just, like when I didn't get into UCLA, I thought, what's going on with my life, but then the universe conspired, and I'm a better person for it.
And sometimes it does it in good ways too.
I would say mostly in good ways. There's a part one, which is the bad thing that happens.
Yeah.
And then there's the part two where it all makes sense. And sometimes those two parts can be 5 years apart.
Oh, 100%.
You just have to keep the faith.
Yeah.
On that note, we are going to take a short break. When we return, we will talk about Vikram's time after his education and how he ended up in Seattle, but after these messages.
Chef Jamie Gwen here. Tune in for food talk, restaurant reviews, and interviews with the country's leading chefs. I'll answer all your cooking questions, share wine knowledge, and dish on recipes to make every day come alive with flavor. Tempt your taste buds and tune in. Let's dish every Saturday at 5 p.m. right here on 1150 KKNW.
Don't miss Food and Wine with Chef Jamie Gwen. Saturdays and Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m.
Hey Lisa, how are you? It's been so long. Are you back for good? What's going on?
Hey, good to see you. Yes, I'm back for good and just trying to get my life back together.
Well, I'm so happy that you're home. It looks like things are going well. I've been seeing those pics you post of you and your family at all those fun events. What gives?
Oh, VetTix. VetTix gives.
What's VetTix?
VetTix is an amazing charity that gives free event tickets, like concerts, sporting events, and shows, to currently serving military vets and their families, and to the immediate families of troops killed in action. It's a really nice organization.
That is so nice.
These events have helped me feel like myself again, and all these new happy memories my family and I are making are priceless.
We have extra tickets sometimes. Can I donate them?
Yes, it's easy. Just go to vettix.org. You can give your extra tickets, and other vets like me can sign up to get them.
Awesome. I love that idea. What a great way to give back. I'm so glad you told me about it, and it was amazing to see you. And listen, thank you for your service.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Bringing good vibes to the Puget Sound and the world. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back. We are talking to Vikram Marthandam, an Amazon people leader working on cutting edge stuff and also my dear friend. So we were talking about your PhD. Once that got done, what happened next? What was your first job out of college?
Again, I finished my PhD in 2008. This was close to when the recession was
Perfect
starting.
timing. Yeah.
Perfect timing. What a time to graduate, right? But my graduate work was on nuclear structural materials, selecting materials for high temperature applications used in nuclear reactors. Nuclear reactors run hot, temperature hot, right? So,
Yeah.
even though the commercial nuclear reactors that were running in this country don't run as hot as the materials I tested, the experience and the work that I did was very transferable. So the first job that I got was in San Jose, California, in a company called Structural Integrity Associates.
Okay.
The company was a spin-off from XG nuclear employees who started their company 25 years back. I did engineering consulting work for commercial nuclear power plants in the US, working on material integrity problems, getting them through licensing applications and life extension applications with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So it was along the lines of what I did in my PhD, except that I didn't break as many things.
Sure.
It was more desktop engineering analysis, more understanding why materials break, when they break, and how long do they have before they have to take mitigative steps to prevent a catastrophic failure. That's the kind of work that I did.
And I guess you didn't really mess up in your job because there's not been any
I did.
meltdowns.
Yes. And the thing about the nuclear power industry is there's a lot of checks and balances.
Yeah.
There are checks and balances in all jobs. But
Yeah.
then because there is
This is critical to a
compliance,
different
yes,
level.
this is a different level, like
Yeah.
the medical device industry.
Right.
So that helped in keeping the checks and balances truly agnostic of. So the person who's checking my calc should not have been a part of preparing the calc, right? So
Sure.
yeah, so those kind of checks and balances will then really help.
Wow. And was it from this role that you moved to your MBA?
No, from the nuclear power industry, I moved to the oil and gas industry in Houston, Texas, where I lived there for 7 years. And the problems that I was solving was very similar: material integrity problems, equipment reliability problems, hardware engineering problems, but it's just a different industry. The nuclear industry at the time was slowly going towards a downward spiral because we weren't building as many nuclear power plants in
Sure.
this country. And the ones that were there were slowly being retired as well. So oil and gas was booming at the time. And then 6 years later, when I moved to Seattle, the oil and gas industry started softening a bit.
Right.
And oil and gas goes in cycles.
Cycles,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those, during one of those cycles where my wife and I decided, hey, we need to diversify our risks. We're both in the oil and gas industry. And when my wife got a job at Microsoft, and we've been here for the last 7 years.
So did you move first because of her job or did you move for the MBA?
No, I moved for her job.
Okay.
We all, as a family, we moved for her job. It was the right thing to do, and I don't
Yeah.
regret it today. And after I moved to Seattle, for some reason, it was actually not very easy to penetrate the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, hey, I'm still consulting for the oil and gas industry. I need to do something drastic with my life in order to just get into the tech industry.
Sure.
Right? Amazon was a low-hanging fruit in terms of the logistics and the engineering work that they did. But me going through the MBA program at the Foster School of Business really helped me with the networking.
Got it.
Helped me get in.
So the MBA, since you did it after several years of having worked, because in India people do the MBA right after the undergrad, and it's basically a way to, because the bachelor degrees don't have that much value in India, so it's a way for you to kind of almost be eligible to be hired.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're necessarily employable. Did you gain a lot out of the MBA experience, and how did you having that work experience add to it or subtract from it?
Part of this is anecdotal, but my experience in the technology management MBA program was rewarding in the sense that people came in with experience, anywhere between 4 to 20. I was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It helped because I was able to give and I was able to take as well. If I had gone, most full-time MBA programs, people start their programs when they're within the 4-year experience range,
Yeah.
right? So I knew I had outgrown that. Obviously, altruism was a thing. I did want to give to the program as well, but I
Sure.
felt like I would be giving more than I would be taking.
Yeah.
I think I made the right decision in terms of going into a program where the experience level was kind of a spectrum where I could fit right in the middle.
Okay. For a similar reason, I chose to do the executive program
Yeah.
at London Business School. And though the curriculum is the same, the peer group was extremely different. I was youngest in the class. So I think that helped me get much more value out of it.
Absolutely.
My wife did her MBA right out of undergrad, and the value I've gotten because of that work experience in between, I think really helped a lot, because the MBA is usually helping you understand what gaps you have and then filling those gaps more
100%.
than teaching you new skills like an undergrad degree would, right?
And I've also noticed that there is a huge regionality to MBA programs. For instance, Rice University in Houston
Yeah.
has a huge oil and gas focus. Every student in the program, almost
Yeah.
95% are from oil and gas.
Yeah.
The same thing with Foster, right? So it's a huge tech community in Seattle. It was a 1/3 mix between Boeing, Microsoft, and Amazon, right?
Sure.
So good thing was that there was a 1/3 mix, and it wasn't quite the echo chamber. And that wouldn't have been a very rewarding experience.
And these three companies have very different cultures.
Very different,
Yeah.
yes.
Boeing especially compared to the other two.
100%.
Right. And so once you completed the program, did Amazon happen right away?
Towards the last quarter of my program was when I got hired into Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and somewhere along that, you ended up in the last mile, and we worked together at that point. What's been the best thing about working at Amazon?
The emphasis on speed is probably the best thing that I'd say.
Yeah.
Is something that really works at Amazon, right? I think it also depends on the person. Amazon is not a company that's for everybody.
Right. Exhibit A right here.
No, I wouldn't quite say that, but it is because you should be comfortable dealing with ambiguity, and you should be able to deliver with speed when there is ambiguity.
Yeah.
This is not a question of judging someone's ability, but
Yeah.
if it is in your comfort zone, you will thrive at Amazon. If it is not,
Sure.
you'll know it very quickly.
Any achievements or output that you and your team had that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, we were, at least I've been in 3 distinct orgs within Amazon.
Give us a brief overview of those orgs first.
I got hired as a senior program manager in human resources. I was working on a product called MyDocs. It is the product that people use to sign their offer letters
Yes.
when they join Amazon.
Yes.
The second org was AMZL, where I was working in the program management office at first, and then I started leading the material handling equipment team, where my team was responsible for launching automation in conveyor systems all across
Yeah.
North America. What I'm most proud about is how quickly we scaled, going from 50 delivery stations when I started to 450
Yeah.
in North America, and that kind of speed I've not delivered anything remotely that matches the kind of
Yeah.
speed that we delivered with.
Yeah.
at
And
Amazon.
I was, I guess, further downstream from you,
Yeah.
where I was initially part of being the person on the ground launching the station and filling it up with everything from your conveyors to the toilet paper. And then I gradually moved upstream, and that's how, and then I joined automation, which is where we interacted. Did you, firstly, did you enjoy working with me? And if so, what was the part that was the most enjoyable?
Oh, absolutely. And we've spoken about the broad themes of this topic quite a few times. I think the thing that I really enjoyed working with you was most of the other people from my team were engineers. Right?
Yeah.
we are hardwired to think in certain ways.
Sure.
In what I particularly enjoyed working with you was the out of the box thinking. There is more than one way to skin the cat, and for vegetarians, there's more than one way to fry the falafel.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think that's
Yeah.
what you brought to the table.
I very much appreciate that. I do think Amazon really, it used every ounce of every skill I had. And I think it really pushed me to do things at a much bigger scale. I came from a family business / tech startup, single founder tech startup, small, startup background. So I had never seen anything this gigantic. And when I was reading the job description, I didn't even understand, like, what does stakeholder engagement even mean? Like, what am I doing? And then, of course, now I've learned enough about the corporate life to be comfortable in that environment if I really put my mind to it, but B, also know that it's really not for me. And I think that's where, my current portfolio of things I do has been very exciting. Where do you think Amazon Pharmacy will go? Because you're building and designing the fulfillment centers where the medicines are dispatched from. Are there plans to become like a Walgreens pharmacy, or will it stay true to Amazon where there's no storefront and you just have this massive logistical network?
What I can say is,
Whatever you're allowed to say.
we do what Amazon does best: bring delight to customers.
Yeah.
I think how it has impacted me is what I'm going to speak about, right?
Yeah.
When I was in AMZL, we used to deliver everything under the sun,
Yes.
and no one knows what's inside those boxes.
Right.
What is most impactful for me today is we deliver things that I believe is very meaningful,
Yeah. For sure.
truly life-saving medication.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I really enjoy about the job. Growth plans, we read about it as part of public announcements and things like that. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of the journey where we're building a network that
Yeah.
brings delight and brings life-saving medication to our customers.
Yeah. Makes sense. What was one thing you really learned at Amazon? For me, it was learning how to do things at scale. What was one thing you have taken away the most in terms of skills?
Honestly, when you are delivering with speed and delivering to scale, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, is don't ask for permission.
Ask for forgiveness.
Ask for forgiveness, because getting stuff done
Yeah.
that supersedes everything. And I've taken the liberty to not ask for permission, and I don't think I've ever had my wrist slapped for doing so.
That's a good answer, I would say. Do you miss life in Texas at all, or now are you a Washingtonian?
I actually miss the food in Texas.
Oh, don't get me started
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
The Mexican food especially.
Mexican food, any food. Houston was one of those melting pots
Yeah.
where you could pick the cuisine and you could find top-notch, inexpensive food.
Yeah.
And
I think it had the most restaurants per capita
Oh,
of any
100%.
major city.
100%. Yeah.
Great. I mean, Austin was also great with food. Maybe not Indian food, but again, this is mid 2000s, so it's been a long time. I went to Austin after 8 years
You're telling me that
last month.
week. Yeah.
I don't recognize the city anymore.
Oh, it has changed. Even in the last 10 years, the first time I went to Austin was in 2012.
Yeah.
It is a very different city now.
Yeah, for sure. I think it has the personality of a software developer with cowboy boots on. That's what I like to say.
You could say that.
Yeah. Earlier it was just a weird place. Now it's got this identity.
I think it just goes to the point where people say keep Austin weird, right? Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember. Keep Austin weird. I drove by the campus. I walked around the business school this time. Thankfully, those places look much more familiar than the rest of like the downtown and whatnot. So, Amazon is known to be a pretty grueling work environment because you're doing these great things. You're expanding these networks, and there's so much like going on at such a speed. How do you stay connected to your family, spend time with your family, and how do you balance all of that?
I have the fortune of having my sibling is here.
Yes.
My mom is in India. It is challenging to get on the phone. Sometimes things just get busy,
Yeah.
but I think it's about prioritization. you can get work done by burning muscle. You can get work done by burning fat. You just need to be conscious about what you want to burn and priorities.
Yeah, that's good advice. We've been trying to do this Saturday evening group call with my brother and my parents, but it's much harder than it seems. And I actually thought of an idea where I would just turn on my FaceTime and just leave it sitting in my living room, and they would do the same. So you just have this window into each other's houses whenever you need, because data is inexpensive.
Yeah.
But we got bored of that because nobody was really engaging with the other side because it was just kept there.
Oh, no, but to your point, you the question that you asked me was, hey, how are you able to keep up with family and just stay in touch?
Yeah.
Working an Amazon job. I think just for your viewers, they know this as well as any of us do. But life in India is not easy. It's not quiet. It's not like people have spare time. It's busy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is busy.
Very productively busy as well.
I mean, I would spend disproportionate time in traffic in Bombay. I think that was the part of my life I probably hated the most there. Mm-hmm. The effort result correlation was a bit weaker because of all these additional things that you have to deal with. Of course, it's not like life here doesn't have challenges, it's just a different set of challenges. So on that note, we will take a short break. When we return, we will talk about Vikram's plans going forward and advice that he has for new immigrants. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Are you thinking of building a new home? A beautiful residence, custom designed to meet the needs of your family? If you are, then get started by listening to Designing and Building Your Dream Home with your host, KT. The show features interviews with award-winning residential architects, custom home builders, and other residential design and construction industry experts who will share their knowledge and expertise with you. That's Tuesdays at 1 p.m. right here on 1150 KKNW.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diasporaa, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diasporaa offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/1150 KKNW.
And we are back. We are talking to Vikram Marthandam, Amazonian husband, father, and dad jokes connoisseur. So before we go into life-changing advice for new immigrants, we share a love for dad jokes. I think it's an exceptional way to keep in touch with people, is to send them a 7:30 a.m. dad joke. And I think we've been bantering about it for, I don't know, ever since I know you actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite dad joke?
What's my favorite dad joke?
I have a clear favorite, and I'll tell you that later. But
you're putting me on the spot now. Let me think.
Okay, let me start with mine.
Yes.
What makes a joke a dad joke? When it becomes apparent.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can feel the burn in your core muscles. The burn. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
And the thing about dad jokes is people absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But they just pretend to not like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you and I have toyed with the idea of the the videos where we just read dad jokes to each other.
Yes.
I think once this show gets going, we might.
I think we should have a conversation about that.
We could, right?
Yeah.
I'm also trying to do jokes that are cross language. So dad jokes which have a Hindi element to them, but it's proven to be a lot tougher because you need to then be a lateral thinker in multiple languages.
I've been able to whip up some in my own native language, Tamil.
Wow.
But it does take a little bit of effort. But it just comes naturally though, right? Sometimes some words render themselves really well in your native tongue. And you just need to milk it when you hear it.
Right. Actually, speaking of Tamil, there's something I want to touch upon. So Tamil Nadu is one of the states, I mean, most states in India have their own language, but it's one of the states with a very strong language movement where, there's a bit of resistance against Hindi being the all-encompassing language of the country. Was Hindi taught in the school when you were growing up?
Absolutely.
It was?
Yeah, it was. The first, right up to 6th grade, my first language is English. Second language is Hindi. And then third language was Tamil.
Okay.
And after, in my 6th grade, I figured that it was really difficult to get good grades in Hindi.
Right.
So I just switched it up to make Sanskrit my second language.
Wow.
And Hindi my third language. So I did learn Hindi. In fact, I learned Hindi growing up because I grew up I was born in Rajasthan. My granddad was working there. That was when my dad was in Iran.
Right.
So that's where I was born. I grew up the first couple of years in Delhi, and then we moved to Andhra Pradesh, where my mom was a doctor at the National Thermal Power Corporation. Hindi was the language to go to because I didn't know any other language. Right. So
So interesting thing for our listeners, given that Vikram is not fluent in Hindi and I don't speak a word of Tamil, our conversational language is English. That's by default. And that happens a lot more with Indian people than you would think, is that you just don't speak each other's languages. And these are not dialects. These are independent languages with their own script and grammar and 60 million speakers. So it's one of the interesting things that is, I guess, a legacy of the colonial rule is that we all speak English. It may not be in the same accent either. Like, the Bombay English accent is different from the Chennai English accent. I once had a person here tell me, well, over time, all the Indian people learn the American accent. And I was like, well, Indian English is the most widely spoken form of English in the world.
Just by population.
Just by population.
Yeah.
So, 400 or 500 million people speak it.
Yeah.
So maybe you might consider the other way around.
Actually, I did this with my son, my 8-year-old son. I asked him, hey, can you speak English like an Indian? And he really pulled off a really hilarious Indian accent.
Yeah, when my son was growing up, his Nana, speaks to him in Gujarati, but he has a certain regional Gujarati accent.
Right.
So he speaks English and therefore English words in that Gujarati accent. So it's an even bigger mishmash.
Oh, that's amazing. And I remember you and I speaking about this. I think you told me that you speak one dialect of Gujarati and your son speaks another dialect of Gujarati.
He speaks Kathiawadi Gujarati.
Okay.
I speak Bombay Gujarati.
That is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I'm trying to wean him away from that because the Kathiawadi Gujarati sounds very slang / like colloquial almost. Gujarati is a very rich language like all these other languages, and there are certain designated accents. So when I'm in Bombay, and I speak Gujarati, someone who is familiar with the language can understand that I am originally from this part of the country, but now I live in this part of the country, just from the accent.
But can you speak the other dialect?
So all the dialects of Gujarati are interchangeable.
Okay.
But the words and the grammar is very different.
Okay.
So I could contextualize what they're saying, and like how you have like the deep south here, so you have like deep Gujarat accent. Those become a little bit harder. And in those parts of the country, like say rural Andhra or in Tamil Nadu, people don't speak Hindi. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so they will only answer in Gujarati no matter what language you speak.
Even in Chennai, I'm sure I know a lot of people who just don't speak Hindi.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. As a Bombay person, we are kind of oblivious to the rest of India unless we travel. So that's where my question came from, that to what extent is it taught in the school? And I had a similar experience because I went to a Gujarati focused school in Bombay, but because it was a state board school, there was English and Marathi were the only compulsory languages.
Okay.
So you could either then choose Gujarati as a third language or a combination of Hindi and French. So at one time, I was learning 5 languages at the same time, and then through the option, I dropped Gujarati. So you're still learning 4 languages at the same time. I don't speak a word of French anymore, but I could probably read enough to save my life, you know.
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was 5 years worth of French, but it's not an immersive way of teaching in general in India, right?
100%.
So that doesn't bode well for languages in particular. So now you've been in the US for 20 something years?
23 years.
23 years. So about half your life probably.
More. Little more.
A little more. If someone was moving today and as a master's student like you did, how are things different than they were back then, and what advice would you give them?
Oh, just the extent of information that they
Yeah.
have in their hands.
Yeah.
Right? So that was very different. So I still remember the only phone I had was my dad's Nokia 3650.
Yeah.
There is not a lot you can do
Nope.
with it, right? So that's changed pretty significantly. I think, what's your question? What advice I'd give students
So that they flourish and excel and get the most out of what this country has to offer while giving back as well.
I don't want to sound pedantic, but I'll say what I didn't do, right? So
Yeah.
for the first, I'm going to say 10 years or 8 years of my life in the US, I did not tap into just getting the most out of the culture here.
Yeah.
And it's not atypical for someone coming from India to
Yeah.
just be with your own kind.
Yeah.
And it leads to groupthink.
Sure.
And it helps when you get out of the echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
You experience the American life a lot better
Yeah.
if you do that.
Yeah.
I consciously try to do that a lot more these days.
Yeah.
And that's, I would say, just when you land in this country, try to get the most. And people say this when you go to business school. For every mile you put into it, you'll get a mile out of it, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It just doesn't apply to business school. It
Sure.
applies to any place that you're moving to. Just
Yeah.
get the most out of it.
I think when I discuss this with people, some of them get defensive. And I try to tell them it's not either or. You don't
It's
have
not
to
either
become
or.
a full-blooded American. You know, like my son watches cricket and baseball both. And, you know, he has a Mumbai Indians jersey and a Mariners cap. Like you can combine the best of both cultures. There's good and bad about each culture, I think. So I agree with you. I was lucky enough to be younger when I came. So there was more personality formation left.
Yes.
And I actually had a friend. He was a high school football player who chose not to play football in college.
Mm-hmm.
And he was half Czech origin and half Hispanic, but American, 4th generation American.
Yeah.
He taught me so much about American culture and football, and I taught him so much about Indian culture. That was, I think, one of the most important people to, you know, get me assimilated at that time.
Yeah.
So, great. We have quite a bit of time left. So, were there any low points in your initial days before you say you got well settled? Were there any really what am I doing here kind of points that you're comfortable sharing?
It was not quite in my initial days, but I think it was after I moved to Seattle. And the reason for that was Seattle's a very interesting place, at least from a job market standpoint, right? It's a mechanical engineer. There are very few places that, Boeing is there, but there aren't a whole bunch of more options. What really hit me was when I was not able to get through the tech job market.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a point in time when I told my wife, hey, let's just pack our bags and go back to Houston, right? We've tried this for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm employed. I'm still doing consulting work for the oil and gas industry. But this can be it.
Right.
And I think my wife pushed me to stay a little more persistent, and things
Yeah.
did work out at the end of the day, right? That
Yeah.
I'd say was the low point. So,
Yeah. Many people give up right before they hit that inflection point.
yeah.
And so I'm glad you did. Would you move back to India at all? And if so, under what conditions?
I don't know if I'm ready for it. I never say never.
Right.
So I would have to. It's not about whether it's going to be a lucrative offer.
Yeah.
I think now my son he was born here. He's an American.
Yeah.
He's used to a certain education system.
Sure.
The education, yes, money can buy you the American kind of education
Yeah.
system in India, but I don't know if that's the right thing for him. So I think the decision would have to be from what's the best for his future, right? That's the
Yeah.
lens that I would need to look
Yeah.
at. Maybe yes, closer to when I'm going to retire, when my son is on his own, he's able to figure things out for
Sure.
himself. But I think I have a pretty good life here.
Yeah.
In fact,
I would say
I
so.
don't know anything about the system in India at this point.
Yeah.
So I think
India's changed tremendously since you would have left.
100%.
Yeah. And in some ways, it's world beating even now, like use of technology for payments, for example. I haven't seen any. I feel like this is the place which needs to catch up with some of those things. My wife and I keep talking about, having a base somewhere in the middle. And this is also because we are more recent immigrants, right? We have in this innings 7 years only, and that too spread across Vancouver and Seattle. And we find something like Dubai might be interesting, like in between, it's got the best of both cultures. But then again, begs the question, what will we do there? Do you want to restart? Because like you did in Seattle, it sets you back. And the later in life, the more progressed in life you are, the harder it is to make those changes. So it's something that's been a running talking point for us as well.
The one thing that I've learned from all my moves, so I've lived in 7 cities in the US, every change has brought me something better. Yes, in the short term, it seemed like a setback,
Sure.
but then it's been a leapfrog moment for me.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to look at it from the start. I don't want to give the impression that I'm change averse.
Sure.
I just don't want to make a change willy-nilly.
Yeah.
That's the way I would look at it.
Yeah. Did you face the Seattle freeze when you moved here? Did you feel people were not as friendly? And I mean, South is generally friendlier. So.
Yes and no, because I think people are in general a lot more garrulous and talkative in the South than they are here.
Yeah.
I'm not quite ready to say that there is the Seattle freeze. Hey, the stereotype is yes, it just, I can see it all around. I think it's just people from different places are different, right? It's hard to it's easy for us to stereotype them into brand names.
Yeah.
But once you get to know people, they do open up a lot more.
I would only consider it a freeze if I tried and no one responded.
Yes.
So for me, the first step is always trying.
Exactly.
I said this in the last episode as well, that when I lived in Bombay, did I look out for new immigrants and say, hey, oh, you're from Lucknow, welcome to Bombay, how can I help you? Yeah. I didn't do that. And
nothing
if someone
ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, and if someone did that to me and asked for help, I would say, why are you, like, who are you? I don't know you. So it's not unnatural for, people here not to actively think about, oh, let me go help a new immigrant today. But if you reach out and, if someone then says no, then I might say, okay, this place is a little bit unfriendly.
I will say this, coming from Texas though, right? It was a little bit of a taste bud freeze here.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yes.
When I went to Austin, I had Mexican food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single time. And it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't have to have a 5-star rating. It's just going to be nicer. So, hey, that's probably my next startup idea then. Let's move into our weekly segments. I think we have time for a couple. So let's spin the wheel and see what we land on. Mango memories. We haven't done this one before. I, as many Indians, have memories of eating mangoes in India and very strong memories around them. So do you have any mango memories?
Oh, from every summer.
Every summer?
Yes. Strong and fond memories too, right? I think the memories started coming to me once I started seeing people eat mangoes here in this country.
Yeah. I wouldn't call them mangoes. I'm sorry, but yeah, there's no competition.
Separate conversation, but yes, the mango lookalikes.
Yeah.
We had, I don't know the number of types of mangoes you find in India. It's a 710 popular types of
Popular.
mangoes.
There's, I think, about 400 varieties.
Wow, that's a lot. But
Yeah.
yes, I've definitely not tried all 400 of
Yeah.
those. But depending on whether you're early in the season to much later in
Yes.
the season, and you may call it different names in Bombay, but the sweetest of them came from a neighboring state, Andhra Pradesh. It
Yeah.
was called Banganapalli.
Okay.
Uh,
I've
tho-
heard that name.
Those
Yeah.
were extremely sweet. So those, I think the window during which you'll get those is super short. You won't always get them ripe, so you have to buy them raw. You put it in,
Yeah.
put it with the rice to ripen them, right?
Yeah.
Buy as much as you can, and once you get your hands on one of them, you're not going to be genteel or dainty with it, eating it with a spoon. You just go at it like piranhas.
So speaking of dad jokes, when eating mangoes, try till you succeed.
Yes. Yes.
That was
Absolutely.
bad. That was bad.
No,
Okay.
that's exactly what I was going to say, but you said it much better than I
So
said it.
I have lots of mango memories, and I'm probably going to ask this question on many episodes, so I'm going to let them out one at a time. For me, my parents would take off my shirt as a kid because I was getting mango stains all over them. And so we were just sitting there in our half shorts with this steel plate, and I don't know if this was a thing in Tamil Nadu, but the steel plates would have the name of the family engraved.
Yes.
So that if you give it to someone, you should get it back. And these plates would have, they just leave the mango there, slice, no cutting, nothing, just take the skin off, or sometimes not even do that.
Yeah.
And you're just going at it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, but wouldn't you say those stains on your shirt are badges of honor?
I would, but I didn't have a choice in the laundry
That's fair.
processes of the
That's
day.
fair.
So
Yes. And ants would come.
yeah,
It-
ants would come.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would have a mango variety called hafus, and which is called Alfonso.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Yes.
So the Marathi word is hafus for
Okay.
that. Alfonso, I think, is the Portuguese Goan name.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and hafus is the. But yeah, I'm getting tempted to share all my mango stories, so I'm gonna pause here.
Yes.
We do have time for. Actually, we don't. So we are going to end this episode today here. Thank you for listening to Diaspora. We hope you enjoyed hearing Vikram's amazing story. Remember to check out our show notes for links to more information about the things we discussed today, such as mangoes and dad jokes. You can find Diaspora on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you like this episode, consider following us on Instagram or leaving us a 5-star review. Diaspora is part of the Staying Power network of shows and podcasts, all of which are dedicated to inspiring listeners to build lives of meaning, connection, and value. You can find the Staying Power network of shows wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back next week with another interesting story from the South Asian diaspora. Until then, take care and stay curious. Vikram, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun.